right, we're joined today by Tomo Bystedt, a familiar face for Flagstick followers, obviously the senior product director at TaylorMade Golf. And today we're going to talk about carbon wood, the next evolution of carbon wood. You know, you joined us last year to talk about these groundbreaking products, a whole different look, a whole different material that you were making use of in the face of your woods. Welcome back. And,
Thank you.
let's get to it. Stealth 2. You had last year a product that was groundbreaking that took a long time to develop, as we talked about, but that obviously set you up for where you were going to go next. What are you most excited about in this Stealth 2 product?
Yeah, Scott, thanks for having me. I definitely kind of feel a lot of excitement about next year. The team has done an incredible job, obviously, to bring a 20-year in the making technology to the market in 2022. And now in 2023, we're feeling like there's a lot of runway to make this product even better. And you know, the crazy thing is when you make something amazing and new, and that's so different, and our company has obviously invested in this technology in a big way, all around our supply chain and everything else. It does open up new opportunities. We talked about this last year in terms of seeing a little bit of a ceiling with titanium, or where we could go with the face technology and the face speed and forgiveness. And so we kind of jumped to a new track with the carbon faces. And now going into the second year of that, we're unlocking all this additional performance. And that's really the exciting part about this is, had we kind of kept going with Ty, I don't think we would have seen opportunities like we're seeing now with Stealth 2.
Yeah, I mean, in hitting the product and having a look at the details of it a few weeks back, one thing that really stood out to me is the fact that you're making such an advancement in the weight of the face and how much lighter I mean, just having that face in your hand and you can barely feel it. There's obviously significant advantages there of what you can do with the mass that you've displaced there, but also in creating a different shape within that face to create different performance characteristics.
Yeah, so the new face is really, again, based on a lot of learnings of the first version of the face. And one of the things that you have to do when you launch the first thing of anything new is to make sure it's really reliable, it's durable, it holds up to the scrutiny of everyone who's going to be using the product. And part of that kind of compromise, if you will, is that you're maybe not extracting every ounce of performance you can out of it to get that done. So for generation 2, we had this opportunity to, like you said, make the face even lighter, but more than that, really focus on the forgiveness aspect of the face, of saying, okay, we've delivered this incredible ball speed. Can we now spread that over a larger area of the face? And so the difference that you're feeling in terms of the weight and obviously the profile is really about making the edges thinner, right? And improving off-center ball speed while keeping obviously the center face conforming and within the rules. So that's been really the advancement of the face. And obviously it builds into the bigger story about sort of the goal of our team, which was to deliver more forgiveness holistically in this product.
Yeah, and you've got that really across the product line in the drivers, which there's three drivers. Obviously, people will be familiar with the Plus, the Standard, and then the HD, which I think is an intriguing line, especially for the average golfer and the performance benefits that they can probably find within that.
Yeah, the HD for us, this is an interesting product for us as well, because along with sort of the work we did on the driver, and obviously in the driver, there's a bunch of new stuff in the construction, and you see it year on year. You can see the differences right away in terms of how much mass we've saved with the additional carbon. And within that, the HD line offered us a new opportunity to really max out the forgiveness. And going into 2022 last year, we did not have an HD fairway wood. We did not have an HD rescue product. Mostly because those products weren't ready to go at that time. We were still working on trying to extract sort of this next level of performance. And especially when you look at the fairway wood, you'll notice just a totally different approach to the product. You'll notice it obviously with the shaping of it, but internally, how we weighted that product, it's got incredible MOI. It's the highest MOI product we've ever tested here internally at TaylorMade. And it's certainly the most forgiving fairway wood that we have ever made from an MOI stability standpoint. It's also super easy to launch. So that product, I think, to your point about the average golfer, it's going to be a game changer for that player. And especially with fairway woods being such a hard club to hit. In general, this is going to really change it for a lot of people. And I think just in general, having the HD family across the entire bag is also going to make that, I think, seem like a more viable option for a lot of people, and something that, if you get the HD driver and you've been a draw driver person in the past, well, now you can get a fairway, you can get
Mhm.
hybrids, and you can get a set of irons that also to perform with the similar goals in mind.
Yeah, I mean, I labeled the HD product, especially starting with that fairway, and there's two fairways that I think are real unicorns that I think will get a lot of people's attention. That HD fairway, I guess, 200 cubic centimeters, a little larger profile, shallower, as you said, super super stable. We get so many golfers that look down at a fairway wood and they look at it as being challenging to hit, but that one just seems super easy. You look down and you're not scared of it, especially after you hit it itself yourself.
Yeah, yeah. I think the the thing there is, it's really funny because when you set out to prove a concept in terms of like performance, you're trying to make a super forgiving fairwood. A lot of times you start with sort of, no rules. There's like, just do whatever makes this club the most forgiving. But a lot of times you end up with a club, but maybe that doesn't look good, right? Like, we know that
Yeah.
golf clubs are such an art and science to it. They have to look right when you set it down behind the ball. And so a lot of it was obviously getting the technology right, but also making it look good. One of the goals was, if you're a scratch golfer, you're a tour player, you should be able to play this product from a look standpoint. You should be able to put that down behind the ball and go, I could totally use this product. And if it performs the way I want it to, I would play it, kind of thing. So, it's a club that has draw-bys, has easy launch, but it looks good behind the ball. It sits square. The profile is bigger, but it's not, again, ungainly looking. And we put that product in front of tour players. We had Scotty Scheffler commented to me when we had a tour shoot a couple months ago. He was mentioning that, if this performed for me in terms of spin and launch, he would play it. He was like, I love the confidence that I would get from looking at that behind the ball. And so, to your point about it being a unicorn, it does strike a unique balance in that way of kind of being acceptable visually and looks nice behind the ball, but also have that incredible forgiveness built in.
Yeah, and one of the unicorns, the other one that I mentioned in that bunch, which I'm very interested to actually hear what your tour players thought of it. And I'll tell you, being with a number of media colleagues and going and testing this product, it definitely was the one everyone was talking about. And the fact that the Stealth 2 Plus fairway with this massive 50-gram cartridge on the bottom that allows you to transform the club into a different club without changing the look of it. The versatility of it was unbelievable. And first off, before we get in the engineering of it, maybe a little bit on tour player reaction to this, because I can imagine, for players that are wanting the same look, but maybe conditions change and courses change, their needs change all the time as they move from venue to venue. There's some real possibilities here within this golf club.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, the possibilities are almost endless with this product. And one of the things that we wanted to deliver was just the maximum amount of versatility, the maximum amount of options to fit, to gap your clubs, to adapt to conditions. I mean, all these things is what this club can do incredibly well. And you were asking about the tour feedback. When we showed this to our tour players, when we do our content shoot every year, I would say this was the number one product that people were excited about trying and hitting and playing next year, playing as their next fairway wood. And I think, the reason for that is, when you look at tour players, they, with a driver, for example, they're all looking for kind of the same thing, distance, consistency of spin, the right look behind the ball. But with fairway woods, everyone's looking for some different things. Some people wanted to launch low with spin, hit a yardage. People that come to mind there would be people like Rory or DJ. They have a certain gapping in mind between their driver, and then you get guys like Colin Morikawa who uses this 3-wood very effectively off the tee and really wants to get the maximum distance out of it, because he uses it in a lot of par fours and wants to hit it straight, but wants to maximize how much he's getting out of it. So with that in mind, you get these tour players, and a lot of times you bring in a great fairway wood, it doesn't really work for everyone.
Right.
A Stealth Plus is a good example of a club that's extremely long, but it's also very low spin. It's a great distance club for off the tee, but some players might want something that lands softer on the green if you hit it into par fives, things like that. So with this club, the tour players immediately could see the benefits, and I also think about Tiger Woods as a good example of a player who in the past has looked for a bit more spin in his fairway woods. When you look at so the stuff that he's been playing, the M5s, the M3s were a couple of his favorites. Those all spun a bit more than our more modern ones in the Sim and the Stealth family of fairway woods. So this for him immediately resonated in terms of, okay, now I can get kind of the look, the loft, the launch I want, and I can dial in that spin basically independently of those variables, right? And then on top of that, you say, okay, you get a 3-wood that you like. Now you can gap the 5-wood exactly to where you need that to be, compared to maybe your longest iron or where your hybrids are. So it was really well received, honestly, Scott. And one of the things that we also did on this, we improved the shaping a little bit too. We took some feedback on the current Stealth and the Sim 2s and kind of dialed in the shaping a little bit. And they just loved how this looked behind the ball. It sits very low to the ground. It's got a bit of face height again, so it's not too intimidating to hit off the tee. But again, having that versatility of kind of low launch, low spin to higher launch, more spin, and everything in between is really cool.
Yeah, it was pretty neat just to play around with the different settings and realize that it sort of went from that rocket, hit it off the tee kind of deal that, as you said, a Morikawa would go to versus something that's like the HL. Well, you can all of a sudden create that within the same golf club. I can imagine, though, I mean, with a 50-gram cartridge that's in there and the way it works, there was a lot of extra challenges in producing this. It's not going to be easy all of a sudden from a, cost perspective, engineering perspective, but why were you guys willing to kind of take on that challenge, I guess, more than anything?
Yeah, one of the nice things about the Thai fairway platform for us is, titanium is, relatively rarely used in fairway woods. Most companies do steel fairway woods, and we've obviously done a lot of steel fairway woods. The titanium platform, introduces a lot of new challenges. It's a lot different to work with. It frees up so much mass that you have to like figure out how to put that mass, but then it's also challenging for durability to sound and all those other things. And I think for us, the reason why we were able to kind of do this in 2023 was we had this kind of runway of, we started with the M5, which was a pretty conservative effort to try to get Thai basically working in a fairway wood. Then we got into the Sims, and then obviously Stealth Plus this year, where we really focused on creating very low CG for incredible launch conditions. And then we gradually added some more forgiveness into the product. And really, by having that experience of working essentially for 4+ years on this technology of Thai and steel, that combination, we felt like we could take the leap. And obviously this technology of the sliding weight has been in development for many years for us. And you were correct in saying that this is a very difficult kind of engineering and production challenge. We definitely had a lot more work that had to be done on this compared to a lot of the other products that we developed for this launch. And the durability, the sound, when you have that much weight that's basically loose and that doesn't, at impact, doesn't want to necessarily go with the rest of the club, it presents a lot of challenges. And I can't tell you the hours that we spent down in the lab and our engineers, durability testing, sound testing, bringing in countless prototypes of different shapes, weights, different amounts of mass, and all those things to get to the point where we're at. And honestly, they did done an incredible job to make this happen for us, because it was a bit of a dream here a couple of years ago of like, can we do this? And again, when the weight's front to back like that, it wants to keep moving at impact. It wants to push forward in the head, and it, like I said, it's a very tough engineering challenge.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that play into that. I mean, people maybe don't even understand how it even affects things like acoustics as far as
Correct.
moving things
Yeah.
around. So, again, not something a lot of people think of, but you guys have managed to pull it off, which I thought was incredible. And I think a lot of people, if they go out and they test this, they'll see the versatility, and that's not even using the loft sleeve and changing that around on top
Right.
of that to create even more variation. So, kudos to you guys for doing that. Last bit, then moving to the rescues,
Mhm.
obviously, as you said, having an HD option in there, kind of what's your feel as far as that market, because obviously it's still a growing market.
Mhm.
It's something that's well established, but where do you advance a rescue? Where do you guys feel that you can go forward with a rescue?
Yeah, it's the rescue category is really interesting because as you move into the sort of transition from driver into irons, the market becomes more and more varied in terms of the types of golfers and the usage and what kind of shots you're trying to hit. Like I said earlier, the driver is a little bit more one-dimensional, and then as you get into irons, obviously there's a million different ways to slice irons, and that's why we have everything from HDs all the way to muscle backs. And so rescue is really becoming that transitional category where there's need for a little bit more variation in sort of head styling, head size, types of ground interaction that you see with players. For example, some people like to take divots with their hybrids. Some people obviously have more of a sweeping swing like a fairway would. And then the other part of it is sort of, are you replacing irons with this? Are you going deeper down into the set? And that's where you're going to see some of these higher lofts, the 6 and the 7s are going to be in play, where people are removing 5 and 6 irons from their iron sets. On the other end of the spectrum, for the better player, we definitely see, that kind of bridge between kind of a 3-wood, 5-wood, or a 3 hybrid. Like, that's a very interesting intersection. Some people like it. I personally see a lot of golfers playing a 3 hybrid instead of a 3 iron, that sort of better lower handicap player, because of the consistency on the miss hits. Again, if you miss a 3 iron, a lot of times it's going to come up short on a par 3 if it's a long par 3. Whereas the hybrid's a little more forgiving in that you hit it low in the face because of that low CG. It's still going to get there. It might have a different ball flight than you intended, but it's probably going to get there distance-wise. And so it just gives you that little bit of buffer. And so what we're trying to do with this line of Stealth 2 rescues is really to deliver that variation in performance. The Plus model is going to be that more workable, that player takes a bit of a divot, kind of a bit of a taller face. So just kind of, again, transitioning a little bit more seamlessly with a long iron, maybe like a 770 long iron or 790. And then as you go into the core model, that's really going to be your kind of all-rounder. We're going to see these in play on tour, but we're also going to see them in a lot of bags for 20 handicappers. It's an easy launch. This is our longest product. It goes really far. So again, as you're trying to replace longer, higher lofted fairways or irons, this is going to be a great option there. And then of course the HD is going to really build on the technology that we put in the fairway wood. It's a very low profile club, super easy to launch, very, very forgiving on miss hits. And that's really, again, going to try to make sure that that person that struggles with maybe a 5 or a 4 or a 6 iron even can have a hybrid that just is easier to play, and maintains that gapping too. So we've kind of tweaked the lofts a little bit in those HDs as well, where the gapping is a little bit wider to allow for like a meaningful difference between a 5 and a 6 hybrid, for example.
All right, last question, whether you want to answer it or not. We've talked about it a little bit, and this is a curiosity for a lot of consumers. Is there ever going to be a need, or will you look at doing a carbon face in a fairway wood or a hybrid?
It's very unlikely that it will happen, and I say that because it's obviously it's a technology platform that we have explored. I mean, we've explored this 15 years ago plus.
Of course.
And the benefit just isn't there, Scott. So when you think about why we're getting the speed benefit in the drivers, because we're replacing a heavier material with a lighter one, a less dense material, and we're making that collision more efficient essentially with the ball. When you're replacing a fairway or a hybrid face, the faces are so much smaller to start with, so much lighter to start with. And once you've got the ledge that the face sits on, you've kind of lost your mass savings at that point. So it's really, and obviously this extra cost and complexity involved in making carbon face. So right now on the horizon, unless there's some need for some massive faces in a fairway wood, it's probably not going to happen. And that's my kind of prognostication into the future, I would say, is don't hold your breath.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, thanks, Tomo. Always good to catch up. Great new products. Very curious about the consumer feedback. I think they're going to be very interested in what they see here and what they find there. And kudos to your team for creating another great line.
Great. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it.